Welcome to Terror in Tandem, a podcast about finding entertainment in the macabre, hosted by the knowledgeable and lovable Laura and Richard Mathiasen. Each episode, we discuss the horror genre, from books to film to TV and beyond. Sometimes, even from the beyond. You can find us on Instagram at Terror in Tandem, on YouTube at Terror in Tandem, and you'll always find our latest episode on our website, terrorintandem.com. They're
Check
all
us out.
just called Terror in Tandem, folks.
Yeah, I mean, just Google us.
Yeah.
For the love of horror.
Just
Google us.
So, or yell, "Hey Siri."
It's the episode you all have been waiting for. You know, we're doing things a little different this year.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
This episode usually comes at the end of the year, but we're moving it up a little bit.
We are moving it up a little bit because
I can't.
Oh, phones are dead. The board is, for the first time ever, nothing. Completely dead. No lights at all. Our engineer has left.
She's licking herself.
Well, folks, this is the end of the year wrap up, which we normally do at the end of the year, but we're not doing that this time.
This is our best of 2024 in horror.
And I didn't struggle with this one at all because I
really did struggle.
I don't like anything.
You did struggle. Again, every year we go through the same thing of where you can't narrow it down, and we have multiple conversations but those are my recommendations, and those are my best of the year.
Yeah.
I'm doing 10 best of the year.
No, it's like the beginning of Apocalypse Now, where essentially I'm just like losing my mind in a hotel room in South Vietnam and just, you know.
I would never, ever do that to you, listener. I would not make you sit through 10 of Richard's favorite, weird, obscure horror that you're never going to watch.
The original list was 20.
He likes everything. We've established that.
And this has been a very filled year. There's a lot of content out there, folks. And, you know, I'm just one man. One very attractive man doing his best.
We've narrowed it down to 5 each, just like we've always done. And we're going to do it in the same process as we always do, which is I'll give my best of, Richard will. I mean, this is the format of the latest and greatest, end of the year, best of 2024.
And those of you longtime listeners will probably be sensing a pattern that each year, the wrap-up episodes begins with Laura re-explaining to me what this is, and me explaining that I've spent the last week in like an existential crisis, surrounded by crumpled up bits of paper, and you know, finding out what's really important to me. I guess.
Industry, it's lawyers are the top users. Richard
notebooks.
is the second.
It's
mostly scribbles and
yeah,
like thrown next to the garbage.
It's like when they found John Doe's apartment in Seven with all those notebooks. Except I'm nice.
I do want to give a quick shout out to superfan Hannah sharing that we are our number 3 most listened to in her Spotify Wrapped.
For real? Wow. Yeah. I compliment you on your taste, my friend.
Yeah. Awesome.
In podcasts.
Thanks for listening, Hannah.
Thank you.
We appreciate your leaving like your millions in your will to us. That's really unnecessary.
Yeah.
But it's going to be used for yet another one of our luxury properties. So it's going to be put to real good use.
Absolutely. You know, or to restock on that island where I hunt poor people.
As much as we hope you live till your, hundreds, late 90s.
Absolutely.
Hundreds.
And if your food tastes just a little weird this week, don't worry about it. Keep eating.
See you at the holiday party.
So anyway, at the potluck, yeah,
it's actually potluck because it's whether you're lucky or not.
Pretty much, yeah. You could. That's the thing about potlucks that they don't discuss is you could have very, very bad luck that day, my friends. You could.
Pot unluck is too hard to say, so they just call it potluck.
Yeah.
But the is
like when Carol brings her deviled eggs that smell just a bit off.
Yeah.
So we are doing one thing slightly differently this year because I pulled a sports reference that fits this. at the last
A
second.
MacGuffin?
An Audible? That's the one. I'm not repeating any of yours. So like your 5, here's the thing. Everyone that you love, it's also on my list, and I won't deny it. So you're going to do 5 and I'm going to do 5, and that's how I keep myself
We'll see
happy.
if he lets me get through why my favorites are my favorites without telling all of you why he also loved it.
I'm
But
covered in
this
electrodes
is his
right
way.
now.
Listen, audience, you just found out his dirty little secret.
Yes.
This is his way of actually giving you his 10 best.
You picked up on that right away, huh? Shit. I thought I was being a little sneaky.
No. I knew that all along when
Great.
you were like, oh, I'm going to do my 5 of my own.
So now that I've described my brilliant trick, let's get into it, because this is going to take a while.
Why don't you start?
Oh my gosh, me? No, I could never. But anyway, here it is. I am just going to start at the top. There's no denying it. My absolute favorite film of the year is Red Rooms. Pascal Plante he's a writer and director that I wasn't familiar with before, but this film it played at my beloved Fantasia Film Festival in Montreal, which I've only been to once, but I would love to go to again. It's so good. But so this movie just blew my mind. It's the one that I can't stop thinking about. It challenged me in ways that a movie really hasn't challenged me in a long, long time. So long and short of it is actress Juliette Garipi plays Kelly Ann, who is a serial killer groupie attending the trial of Canada's most notorious serial killer, who is he is known for kidnapping young women, girls really, and brutally torturing and murdering them in what is known as Red Rooms, which is an actual like real life urban myth that might be real, where you basically just murder people on the dark web on camera and sell it to creeps. So this movie does not actually have a great deal of violence in it, but a lot of things are described and intimated and hinted at.
And you can watch things happening through the other characters watching it.
Yes, you'll they'll play a video or something, but you don't actually see the footage. You see what effect it has on the people watching it, and it's utterly devastating. And I walked away having to remind myself, actually, there wasn't really a lot of on-screen violence, if any. Because it kind of tricks you into thinking the movie's much more graphic than it actually is, because the things they describe are really bad. So this movie it was well shot. It was gripping. It drew me in. And like I said, Kelly Ann, as the serial killer groupie, she has this strange plan that she puts in motion that you really don't. Even at the end of it, when everything is revealed, it does wrap things up narratively, but thematically and emotionally, I still don't quite know what to make of it. I do not really know what Kelly Ann's true motivations were in what she did, and that is absolutely fascinating to me. That even months after watching it, it's still something I am turning over in my head and arguing about. It's also just a very gripping film. It's a unnerving movie. It reminded me a lot of the 90s movie by Joel Schumacher with Nicolas Cage and Joaquin Phoenix, 8mm, which I actually really kind of liked when it came out, but got made fun of a lot because people mocked the idea that snuff films were real. And now, on social media, you can straight up watch war crimes like in real time, unedited. So the ideas of snuff films, back in the day, it used to be like an urban legend, and now it's literally something you can just fucking watch. You can watch people die. So this really, I think, held a very uncomfortable mirror up to the audience in our relationship with true crime stories and real tragedy, and this sort of perverse like fetishizing of these kinds of things. And still, I'm not going to say anymore. Watch this movie. It's incredible. Red Rooms.
Yeah, I think the acting is really good. It's what did you say it was? What language?
It's in French Canadian.
Right. Canadian. And it's
So like weird French.
has the barrister type of courtroom.
Oh,
The
where they wear the wigs and shit?
Yeah, it does
yeah.
take place in a courtroom, which is different than America court.
Yeah, I
And
mean, it's part of the Commonwealth, so it
it's
has
great,
like a
though.
parliamentary style.
it's interesting to see, how their legal system plays out and how lawyers present opening to the case and how this actual serial killer is caged.
Yeah, he's super creepy too.
It's like not in a he's not sitting at a table with his own lawyer. He's in a glass cage.
Yeah, no, it's like because it's Canada, they put him in like a hockey penalty box.
And they have these like fangirls coming and watching.
Yes.
And this main character is a fangirl and she meets another fangirl. And it's just interesting because she's never really a fangirl. I think her motivation is to expose him because she has the inside track to the Red Rooms.
Then you're also forgetting though, like a few parts of the movie. I don't think it's fair to say she has a motivation. I think she has a few.
Yeah.
Well, that's my first.
Yeah. So my first is a movie also. It's Cuckoo.
Oh, yes.
It's written and directed by Tillman Singer. He's fairly new to feature films. He's German, and it's a Neon production, which I typically think of Neon films as a little weird.
Oh, they're great. Yeah, they do. They released like Lars von Trier movies and stuff like that. Yeah.
So just know what you're getting into. This is not going to be very formulaic. It's not a very formulaic horror. It's not a very easily digestible plot. You don't quite know what's happening, and it is strange, but I loved it. I thought it was really atmospheric and strange and scary. There was one scene in particular that was really brilliantly done, brilliantly directed and executed, and I'll talk about it in a minute. It's starring Hunter Schafer, who they're very near and dear to me, mostly known from Euphoria. Jan Blumhardt and Dan Stevens from Apostle, which I talked about, and Downton Abbey. Talk about two different Dan Stevens. And
Abigail. I mean, he's in tons of stuff. The Guest.
He's going to be in a new series called The Terror, which is from the 2007 best-selling novel of the same name by Dan Simmons.
Oh, that's had 2 seasons already. The Terror.
It has?
Yeah. The first season was based on the book. The second season was...
That's already out?
The first season was based on the book. The second season was a separate story that had nothing to do with the book. It had to do with... It took place in Japanese internment camps in the 1940s.
Okay.
And now the third season, I guess, is a new thing. It's like become an anthology show, kind of.
Oh, well, he's in this new season.
I read the novel.
I know you did.
On our honeymoon when we went to Powell's
because
in
he was
Oregon.
like, what goes better with a honeymoon than
Terror? Yeah, exactly. In tandem.
So this film is about 17-year-old Gretchen. She leaves the U.S. to go to the Bavarian resort in the German Alps with her father and his other family. And then strange things, visions, weird witch type shit start happening. And when Gretchen starts working at the front desk, she starts to see these female guests acting strange, like they've been poisoned or drugged. Her stepsister, starts to suffer from seizures, and the doctor at the hospital starts to become like super weirdly invested in her. So there's a lot of creep factor. There's a lot of kind of people acting in a way that Gretchen thinks is really strange and odd, but everybody else is like, what are you talking about? That's just how things are in the Alps,
Yeah.
Like this, there's nothing strange. Oh, you're acting dramatic, that kind of shit. So it's experimental horror. And the atmosphere of this resort in the middle of nowhere. There's kind of a focus on maybe reproductive, female reproduction.
Which is always terrifying.
And this strange dynamic between she and her step sibling. There's a lot of strange feminine relationships in this film that don't always make sense and aren't always positive, but some are positive, some you don't trust. It's a very strange film that feels very like a dream. It's very dreamlike because you don't know what is quite real and what isn't. The one scene that I wanted to talk about that what I thought was really brilliant about this film was Gretchen is riding home on her bike at night from a shift at the front desk, and she's listening to her headphones, and we see this kind of shadow running behind her, trying to catch her on her bike and like nearly grabbing the back of her. And then she starts to see it and she turns around, and it's this like old witchy woman that she ends up getting away from, and she locks herself in, I think it's a police station, and the woman's pounding like bloodied hands on the door, but nobody believes her. Nobody does anything to protect her. And that's part of it. She's definitely alone in this whole experience. And we kind of don't quite know what's going on for most of the movie, but we know something is strange. And that's what I love so much about it, is trying to figure out what the hell is going on, but also everybody acting like body snatchers. And being like, you're the only one, you're the outlier, and treating her really like she's the other, even though she's the one that's kind of more in tune with reality than other people. So, cuckoo.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love this movie. Definitely check out Singer's debut film, which he made when he was still a film student, Loose, which is a really
L-U-Z.
Yeah, it's a really cool twist on possession, and in a way that I've never seen before. It was pretty neat. I loved Cuckoo.
Yeah.
It's goopy.
Me too.
There's a lot of goop in it. There's a lot of slime and goop.
Me too.
Yeah. My next one. Ooh, yes, me. Next one is another very complicated, squirm-inducing movie, and it's J.T. Molnar's Strange Darling. This movie gets under your skin, man.
And makes you nauseous.
It's fucking awful. I loved it. It's incredible. This movie, so Molnar wrote and directed it. It is presented as 6 chapters that are shown to you in a nonlinear fashion, out of order. So it starts I think with chapter 3, or I don't know, something like that. But it shows them not backwards, just straight up out of order. But the result of that is the narrative unfolds in a really fascinating way that keeps you guessing right up until the end of the movie. It's a movie with a lot to say. It's something that I kept going back to and applying different critical theory to, and finding different interpretations to it. There's a definite, feminist application to this movie. There's also a white savior application.
There is quite a bit of feminist energy strung throughout a lot of our favorite horror this year.
2024 was no surprise and absolute, with no subtlety, the year of feminine rage. All of my favorite movies, 3 or 4 of them are about women, going off. That was a real through line. Willa Fitzgerald, who was in House of Usher, she was young Madeline Usher. She's amazing in this movie. It's the performance of the year. She was the best thing I saw all year. She plays the lady, Kyle Gallner, who is kind of a new genre king. He's been in a lot of great stuff like Smile and The Passenger and this. He is the demon. That's their only names in the movie. So the movie starts with the lady running through the woods being chased by the demon with a gun. And it is about these two people and their extremely twisted interaction with each other over the previous night and the day. And that's really all I'm going to give away about it, because it is an utterly fascinating movie. The way information is slowly peeled away, and the way the movie really leads you into thinking something and then
It's very
tricks you into thinking another thing and then tricks you into revealing what it was all about all along, and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ.
it's a very intimately confrontational movie.
Oh yeah.
So if intimacy and focus on intimacy is uncomfortable for you, you will be uncomfortable in this movie.
Oh,
and I
look.
mean intimacy. I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about physical intimacy.
Red Rooms was the same way. It had a relationship with the audience that was extremely intrusive, and you know, this whole fucking podcast is a trigger warning. Okay, it just does. It's a horror podcast.
I don't know what
all
it
of this
was.
is uncomfortable.
I don't know what it was about Strange Darling, but it actually physically made me nauseous.
Same. Well, it's also very graphic. It's an extremely fucking violent and
Yeah.
gory movie. The violence is, it's very graphic, and
It's
it's very,
lingering.
it's brutal. Also, it's like very brutal violence. The
One thing-
performances are out of this world. They are just incredible.
And one thing I really loved about this movie was the cinematography.
Which was done by Giovanni Ribisi.
Yeah.
Yes, that Giovanni Ribisi, who seems to have taken a new turn in his career towards, behind the camera, which I think is fascinating and awesome. And he is, it's spectacular. His cinematography in this movie is phenomenal. The use of color,
Yeah.
especially, reflected
lighting.
like neon lights on the characters, blue and red especially. Just really spectacular use of light and color. It's all shot on 35 millimeter film on location in Oregon, in rural Oregon. So it has that grain that natural film has, and natural you get on location lighting and whatnot. It's so good. It's so disturbing. And, shout out also Ed Begley Jr.
Ed Begley,
and
yeah.
Ed Begley Jr. and Barbara Hershey make an appearance as left-wing conspiracy nuts who are currently shrooming. So it's pretty awesome. It's just a real trippy, wild movie that it doesn't leave any threads hanging, but it takes you on an exhausting journey. It kind of batters you. It's like being on a roller coaster and getting knocked around in the seat, because it sort of pulls the rug out from under you a couple of times in a very jarring way.
Mm-hmm.
For impact and for the beauty of its construction, this movie would be on my list alone, but the performances, especially Willa Fitzgerald, were breathtaking. Just forces of nature. These people are truly insane. I don't think you can act that well unless you are bonkers.
Yeah,
But,
for sure.
that's my kind of crazy. Anyway, Strange Darling. Oh, another thing, quick. The theme song was a cover of Love Hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Co-sung. It's a duet, and one of the people on that duet is Keith Carradine. I mean,
Wow.
it's like all of their famous friends came out to lend a little
Yeah.
help. Jason Patrick is the voice of the true crime narrator in the movie.
Oh.
It's all like,
I like Jason Patrick.
yeah, who
What's he been
doesn't?
up
Narrating this movie.
to? I'd like to see him back as the
He still does stuff.
Richard Gilmore of Lost Boys reboot.
Well, I mean, they did do a couple direct-to-video sequels to the movie with Corey Feldman, excuse me.
Yeah, with Corey Feldman.
I think Corey Haim might have been in one of them, but I don't know. I didn't see him.
So my next is another movie, and it's Longlegs.
Oh.
I really love this movie because I love, not to gender this kind of obsession with serial killers, but I feel like a lot of women like serial killer shit.
Oh, you noticed that, huh?
And so, yeah, it's a serial killer film, essentially. Longlegs, written and directed by Osgood Perkins, who's going to be coming out with The Monkey soon.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to that.
Did you know Elijah Wood's in that?
Yes.
Yeah, exciting. So this Longlegs stars Micah Monroe, Nick Cage, and Blair Underwood. We've talked about this. I think one of us or both of us recommended it.
Yeah.
So I won't go into it too much, but it's about an FBI agent named Lee Harker, played by Monroe, and she's, in the position to figure out who's killing these families, which look like family murder suicides. And she finds out that it's a connection to her past. There's a cult. Her mother's involved. And it's got an ominous ending.
It's also extremely Catholic.
Yes.
It's all about the devil and Satan and Catholicism, which is a weak
occult
spot for me. I love that shit. I love a good Catholic horror.
I think there's some inspiration from a lot of really good quality, real serial killer horror. Zodiac.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. All the notes.
Silence of the Lambs. The promo for this movie was awesome. I made Richard call the phone number.
The phone number.
To listen to Nicolas Cage.
I've always wanted to talk to Nicolas Cage, and this was actually the way I'd always dreamed it would go.
Osgood Perkins, as we've mentioned before, is the son of Anthony Perkins, in case you didn't know. So it's kind of like Nick Cage, famous family lineage, Osgood Perkins, famous family lineage, teaming up. But it's
so good though. The Black Coat's daughter.
And he does what I think. I mean, Black Coat's daughter happened in the winter.
Yeah.
And this also happens in the winter.
He does do good frozen
this
scary.
Dark, like 80s, before the internet type of atmosphere that has like this kind of cold isolation.
Yeah.
But then it's dark themed and bloody, and like the where she existed, which was like above ground in the white snow and the light, and where Longlegs existed, which is in his dark basement.
Yeah.
Creating his destruction,
With
essentially.
poor lighting.
Yeah, with poor lighting and
Making
in the
those
dark.
dolls.
But he was pale.
Yeah.
Ugh. When Nick Cage's character finally reveals himself, it's worth it. It's
like
worth
every-
it just to see this.
It's every horny nightmare I've ever had.
But yeah, this kind of has like David Fincher, Silence of the Lambs vibes. And it's really, really shot well. The music is great. It's paced really well. I know some people had a problem with the pacing. I didn't.
What? Well, you've never seen an Oz Perkins movie. He does slow burns, and
Yeah.
this
I
is
didn't
definitely
think it
his
was
most.
slow.
Well, this is his most accessible movie for sure. Some of it, like Hansel and Gretel, and or Gretel and Hansel, I think it was.
Yeah, Gretel
actually.
and Hansel.
They're very stylish and strange, and they're slow burns. Black Coat's daughter was a real mindfuck. Emma Roberts was so good
I
in that.
also love that movie.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Kiernan Shipka, who was in Black Coat's Daughter,
Right.
also makes an appearance in this.
Yeah, I love that when actors.
Yeah, he has
Show-
a kind of relationship with his actors.
It's like
that
any
he
work,
carries with them.
any job you do, you get better with people
Tatiana
that you work.
Mosley is like his latest. Who he?
Tatiana Maslany.
Yeah,
Yeah,
She
she's
is
going to be in
a movie he did,
in
and
The
is in
Monkey.
another one.
Yeah,
Yeah, in The Monkey, and in a new one he's making.
she's great. I will watch.
And
anything
Micah
she does.
Monroe, you already know how I feel about
the
her.
Queen.
The Queen,
Yeah.
Scream Queen, but not even a Scream Queen because she doesn't scream.
It's. You're right. I don't like to use that term for her because it's much more sophisticated. It's not.
She's like redefining what a final girl is.
She plays a fascinating character in this movie in that she's not warm or likable necessarily, which is not, you don't often see that in a female protagonist,
No,
which is just another example of like, I don't know,
she makes
showing
mistakes.
more
she,
dimensions to like what women, to the experience of being a woman.
She
in
makes
these
mistakes. She
weird
goes
movies.
on emotion, and she kind of fucks things up a little bit. So
She does when that one scene where her mother asks her if she, do you pray, and she just says never once.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
I heart.
and let's not forget Alicia Witt.
Alicia Witt's incredible.
She's great.
Yeah, she's so good in this movie.
And the phone, the old-fashioned landline,
because
work.
it takes place in the 90s.
Yeah.
So honestly, on the timeline, it does take place at the same time as Silence of the Lambs. So there is a lot of, the FBI also. There's a lot of Clarice Starling going on in this movie.
It's just great. And like I said, the marketing was really smart not to include Nick Cage's face in anything, because it really paid off when you went to see it.
You just heard his weird Tiny Tim impression.
One exciting thing was this took $10 million to make, and it was made back opening day.
So I've noticed a real through line in the culture that I've enjoyed both in film and video games this year is that I didn't really like much of the big stuff, but I fucking loved a lot of the smaller projects.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the way things are going when AAA stuff is only produced by 3 companies and we're tired of what they're doing because they're just competing with each other. They're not competing with anyone else.
Yeah. And you may be like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? $10 million is so much money. But it cost $145 million to make Wicked.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Or like Wolves, which was, an Apple movie that's like absurdly expensive to make.
And it's probably mostly salaries.
It is that's exactly what it is.
For those
George Clooney doesn't get out of bed for less than $45 million.
And why should he? Although I think the real
why?
funny
Because
part
nobody
of that,
should be paid that much for
I think
anything.
the real funny
That's why.
part of that movie was Brad Pitt, actually.
Yeah, it's just insane that anyone would be given that much money to do fucking anything. So, capitalism. Long legs. My turn?
Yes.
Let's do it. Another one from me. So it's going to be really fun and uplifting. I'm going to the Emerald Isle itself.
I thought you were going to the Emerald City because I just mentioned Wicked.
No, but it did make me want to go to the Emerald Isle.
Speaking of Wicked, though, Ariana Grande just came out and said that she loves horror.
Yeah.
And one of her favorites of the year was Longlegs.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
and another
great.
one of her favorites you have on your list.
Well, that kind of music's always kind of scared me. So, Oddity from director Damian McCarthy in his sophomore feature. No sophomore slump here. This movie is even better. His first movie was Caveat, also filmed in Cork County, Ireland, and in the same location. He just found this kind of cool estate with this barn and shot both his movies there, but very, very different. So Oddity is...
It's about the twins?
Oh, it's so good. It's such a weird, unnerving, tense, slow burn. It is a real masterclass in ratcheting things up and bringing you to a state of like, what is even going on here? And then, it does reveal it. But and it's also witchy Irish pagan shit, which is the best kind of pagan shit. So Carolyn Bracken plays dual roles in this film. She plays sisters, one of whom is brutally murdered, and the other is a blind medium who owns like an occult curio shop. Yeah, it's great. So after one sister's murdered, like a year later, the medium, the other sister, the surviving sister, shows up at the douchebag husband's house with a 6-foot nightmarish wooden doll that she says is for him. And he's there with his, sexy new girlfriend that he lives with. And he doesn't seem to be all that bothered by...
Another doll movie. Yeah. Because Longlegs is a doll movie.
I have a lot of dolls. He doesn't seem too bothered by the fact that, like, his wife was butchered in the house that he's still in. So the sister shows up and she's real cold. She's pretty pissed. And this doll... you got to look it up. Just if you don't see the movie, you should see the movie. It's on Shudder. But the doll, just Google it. It's incredible looking. It was designed by VFX artist Paul McDonnell. And the idea behind it is Damian McCarthy, the director, said, he's always really liked these scary doll come to life movies, but they are always small. So what if a doll was slightly bigger than you are? It would be a real fucking force of nature, right? Now, it's not like you see this thing jump out of its chair and start pummeling people. It's not that kind of movie. It is much more like witchcraft and weird stuff happening. And then, the doll's in like a different position or that kind of thing. And it does build to a sort of unexpected crescendo. You do get the sense that this blind woman is in charge, but not necessarily. It's a very creepy, unnerving movie with a lot of incredible imagery. That's the same thing about Caveat as well. Damien McCarthy is really good at searing these tableaus and images into your brain. Like, even when you come out of the movie, a few months later, you might not remember every single detail from the movie, but there are a few shots or a few things from it that you will never forget. And The Doll's one of them. So I really, truly enjoyed this movie. I got such enjoyment out of it. It's a smart, sophisticated, beautifully shot, tense and weird movie that's not too out there to make sense of. It really does wrap things up. I've there's kind of a through line in some of the movies I've really enjoyed this year is they've gone really out there thematically and narratively, but they do tend to bring it back to, you know, at least plot wise, it wraps things up, but maybe thematically it leaves things open and interesting instead of like, that didn't really make sense. So anyway, I really recommend Oddity. I loved it. I check out Caveat as well. This director
This is just best of, so we're not talking about checking it out. But but that was on my list.
Damien
Oddity
McCarthy
was on my list. I think I might have recommended it.
You really should watch it. You would like it very much. It's not very gory. It has a bit of violence, but not too much. It's very smart and really good. And overall, scary.
Awesome. Well, why don't we take a quick break?
Do it.
Are you tired of being told to calm down? Annoyed at no one believing you when you say you see someone outside, or in the house, or following you home? Finally, a solution for you to prove once and for all you got this. Introducing Final Girl CBD Seltzer. FG CBD Seltzer combines everything you love about that sparkly, bubbly treat with the calming and focused effect of cannabidiol. With just one 12-ounce can of FG CBD, you can make it through every bump in the night, hysterical frenemy outburst, inappropriate or unwanted romantic overtures, and jump scare after jump scare after jump scare. Try our enticing flavors like Redemption Raspberry, Exhausted by Elderberry, Extra Virgin Mary, and Mellow Melon Maniac. With each sip, feel all of the nonsense coming from those around you melt away while you figure out how to get yourself out of this fucking nightmare. This is a fake ad for a fake product on a horror-themed podcast. We do not make this amazing sounding seltzer for any reason, but if we did, this would be a great niche market. But we don't, and most likely won't.
And welcome back.
Welcome back
to NPR's Terror in Tandem.
Well, my next favorite of the year is The Substance, written and directed by Coralie Farget. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, but those are the two attempts.
Sorry, we're getting a lot of calls from our French listeners now.
Our
Sacre bleu.
person who mans the phone lines, or thing, the beast that mans the phone lines, can deal with that.
Yeah.
We've already got those
She
calls
is
because
wearing
of
a
your
tiny beret.
Your Montreal comments.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Starring Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. Basically, a past her prime exercise guru is going to be replaced by a younger version. And in order to regain her status in the space, she's introduced to something called the Substance, an injectable that mimics your cells into a newer, younger you. The rule is 1 week for you, 1 week for the new you. So I will tell you that this is another one of those kind of feminine rage, feminine energy films that...
It's one of the angriest movies I think I've ever seen.
And I don't think that it's angry so much about being a woman as it is really shining a light on how violent and cruel women are to themselves.
Yes.
For a number of reasons. It could be for your own insecurities. It could be for a job. It could be for a partner or what others expect of you. But the violence that women do to themselves on a daily basis eating disorders, extreme dieting, self-hatred in the mirror, tons of makeup, cosmetic procedures, all kinds, from like facial peels all the way to augmentations and facelifts,
Peel. That's so gross.
liposuction, anything like that. This is a real commentary on beauty standards, the beauty industry, what extremes people will go to in order to hold on to youth, through the gaze of other people too, because Demi Moore is objectively stunning. Even at the age she is now, she's stunning. And she has very openly and publicly talked about cosmetic surgery that she's gotten done, and some cosmetic surgery that she's regretted getting done, and some cosmetic surgery even after this film that she will still do.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Really? Mm-hmm. Yikes. I can't imagine after watching this movie ever wanting to do anything like that.
Yeah. So, but one of the hardest parts for me to watch personally was her real kind of sabotage of her eating disorder, of constant starvation, obsessive exercise as a exercise guru, and then when she was in the body, she just basically was sabotaging the newer version of her by binging.
When she pulled a full chicken leg out of her belly button?
I mean, she would, like, the amount of consumption and how she was abusing herself. And that's another aspect of the violence women do to themselves, is kind of the sabotage and like self-hatred. There's another scene that's really great where she's going to go out on a date.
That was my favorite.
And she keeps checking herself in the mirror, making adjustments. And,
you know, in a movie that was so talked about because of its goopy body horror special effects, I thought the hardest scene in it to watch was when she was just about to go on that
self-doubt.
date. Yeah.
It was the self-doubt.
Demi Moore was spectacular.
She is nominated, I think, for Golden Globe, and hopefully she'll get it and be nominated and get an Oscar, because it would
be really
extraordinary.
It would be fucking amazing to see her win an Academy Award for this movie.
Her ability to, and I don't know how many times they needed to film different scenes, her ability to be completely naked, both like visually naked and emotionally naked, in many reflective surfaces, in the mirror, against Margaret Qualley, who is probably in her 20s, and being nude with her.
No, Demi Moore is a stunning woman, but she is the age she is, you know, and it was really,
and then as she gets older,
vulnerable of her to do all that. When
they start to take advantage of these rules.
Yeah,
and how her body ages without her consent is horrific. That is like a horror in itself, but
it's
like
a film filled with violation.
Yes,
that I think is. It's not so much the special effects and the goop that makes you uncomfortable in this movie, especially if you're a horror fan. You're kind of used to it, but it's the continued violations, which some of them are emotional, some of them are physical. Some of them she does to herself, some of them people do to her, but it's relentless over and over again, and it's exhausting. At the end of it, you just feel like, you know, you just got eaten by piranhas. You know,
it's also like younger people, how they think older people are so like disposable. The way that she treats Demi Moore body, while Margaret Qualley is possessing the body.
There was,
and how she treats the
old
body.
There's so much going on in this movie. There are layers and layers of interpretation. You
have to watch it multiple times.
Yeah,
the cinematography of this film is also very sort of sterile doctor's office, but like also pop media.
Yeah, well, Farhad,
it's like poppy.
The director in her previous film, in this one, has this.
Oh, she does have this like bubblegum,
neon bubblegum kind of color palette that she uses to such extraordinary effect, because thematically and narratively what's happening in front of you is extremely complex and mature, and yet it's set to this very childish, overblown color scheme.
Yeah, it's like Roller Girl.
Yeah, there's no subtlety to it at all, and yet what is happening in front of you is layers upon layers of complexity, and the juxtaposition of those two things, it's wholly this director. Like, she's really made it her voice.
But talk
about another sophomore effort that just knocked it out of the park.
This made me squeamish. This made me scared. This made me cry. This made me feel like very deep sadness and empathy, and it was brilliant. This movie, if I only could pick one of my top of the year, it would be this one.
It kind of in an unofficial remake of the Nicole Kidman movie Death Becomes Her. Remember that movie?
Yeah. I don't know if I have the guts to watch this again.
Oh, I would watch all the guts.
I mean, I would like to watch it again, but I need to steel myself and be ready for it, because it took me a couple of weeks to even process through even all the feelings as a woman.
It's emotionally it's a draining film, but and
to listen to the director.
Also, it's bananas. It's like bonkers crazy.
It is. And all the male scenes being shot in the way they were, like through fish eye lens, and how it was so like imposing. They were always above
Dennis Quaid. Maybe the most perfect casting of the year.
Well, it was going to be Ray Liotta, but he passed away, and Dennis Quaid was then cast. But
Ray Liotta
he did a great job.
I feel like Dennis Quaid in real life, I don't know how much Dennis Quaid had to act. Anyway,
I mean,
Ronald Reagan, everybody.
Eating the shrimp scene.
That was amazing. Ray Liotta would have been great because he was great in everything.
He would have been great, and he would have done that, like, laugh from...
Goodfellas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, Dennis Quaid was very...
creepy and disgusting.
Corporate, sexual
executive.
And gross and demeaning.
Yeah.
Very demeaning.
It's just like, it was just a little flick on his finger.
Yeah.
It was great. Definitely watch it and take it seriously, and bravo.
Brava, everyone. My next one, we're going to the far off land, unless you live there, and then it's just where you are, of South Korea for Exuma. Ooh, man, this movie was good. I honestly... Exuma. I don't know. Exuma.
I don't think it's eczema, because that sounds
Exuma.
too much like eczema.
It's like exuma body.
Yeah.
But So this movie it reminded me a lot of The Wailing, the 2019 South Korea. It was in that it was just really epic and well shot and interesting, and had some kind of similar themes. So the big draw for me for this was, it's directed by Jang Jae-hyun and starring Choi Min-sik, who is Odae-soo from Old Boy and in lots of other stuff. But
the original Old Boy.
Yeah, the OG. So he plays a geomancer who specializes in feng shui regarding burial grounds. So he determines the land that will, and the techniques and the rituals that will ensure peace in the afterlife. It's fascinating. There's so much shamanism and a cult, and there's a mix. Basically, long story short, there's a curse on a rich family, and they hire a bunch of different experts. They hire a shaman, they hire Choi Min-sik, the geomancer, they hire a Christian priest. So and it's an examination through all of these different faiths of this curse. And did a really good job in this movie of keeping them all on level ground with each other. There is no real conflict between these disparate faiths. All of these people work together. They're not competing with each other. The real surprise to me was the Christian not being like, fuck you, shamans. They all work together to try to break this curse. Now, the curse itself is nuts. It has to do with the generational trauma of the Japanese war atrocities during World War II when they occupied the Korean Peninsula. There's a demon, which is... I've never seen a demon like this before. It's really very imposing and frightening. The director uses very little CGI. He shoots on location. They built sets on location because he wanted things to be impactful, which is very cool, especially with this hulking monster demon. It premiered at the Berlin Film Festival, and I think it was the #1 hit in South Korea this year. But it is so good. It's I think even for native South Koreans, there's a lot in this film that is archaic, like the shamanism and stuff, like rituals that maybe aren't done so much out in the open these days. So it was really fascinating to watch. I've seen tons of curse movies and possession movies and exorcism type things, but usually from a Western Catholic point of view.
Sure.
And this was very much, Korean, South Korean, Southeast Asian. So I don't want to give away too much. It has.
What's scary about it?
Oh, right. So this curse is terrifying. It's centered on like the male line of this family, and it's basically they're going to get this little boy, but the rituals are very loud and frightening. There's a lot of really spectacular imagery in this film, and once the demon is revealed, it's like a 10-foot tall like beast monster that it's dressed like an old vengeance like Joseon era warrior, but it's so huge. It's kind of like if the terracotta soldiers came to life, but they were also gigantic. And their techniques aren't great. They don't really work until they do. But all this concentration on the proper rituals and proper location of where you bury somebody was so cool to me. And I have always found, this is what scared me the most about being raised Catholic, was the idea that even after you die, you'll be like tortured and brutalized.
Right.
And because tales of the afterlife are concocted by humans with like a kind of weird, perverse vengeance kick, it's always very lurid, the details of that. So when people get into like what hell is like, it's always like you get your skin flayed off and you're impaled rectally and put in a mountain of shit, things like that. Like it gets really
specific
and perverse,
scary, and like, how do you even know?
These are like sweaty middle-aged monks
and
who have never seen a woman coming up with this stuff.
Nobody talks about that at funerals. They're never like,
exactly.
They're like, rest in peace, blah blah blah. Like you don't say things like he's on his way to go shovel shit in the steaming depths of hell.
That was something actually that really used to scare the shit out of me when I was a little kid. Was I would be taught the very graphic details of hell torture, and also how extremely easy it was to get condemned to an eternity of that.
But all funerals are the same.
Yes, and then every funeral I would go to for like grandma and grandpa or whatever, I would be like, what if they made mistakes? Are they, and then I would imagine these very, very specific and graphic and often sexual tortures being done to them. Yes, being raised in a fanatical Catholic environment is,
you're troubled.
Well, a lot of the stories are like really sexual, So anyway, the reason this movie stuck with me is I think because of that personal like fear of, gosh, there's no peace in the grave even after you. So life and reality is so twisted and cruel that even death brings you no peace. It brings you even worse torture. And there's also I'm a sucker for lingering trauma and generational
so
conflict.
It's not so scary as it is existential dread.
No, please don't get it twisted. The scenes of like trying to exorcise this curse, and it's very scary. This demon that comes out and like crushes people and is like 10 feet tall, it's terrifying. It is actually a very scary movie. But what I really took away from it beyond being scared in the moment was like the examination of the trauma of an entire nation, and the fact that even death doesn't bring peace, and you have to do all these weird, crazy rituals in order to like save your family from the curse of an ancestor. It's awesome. Exuma.
So I'm shifting to a different horror delivery service.
Hello, Flash.
And into the narrative of visual bookings, reading for pleasure and reading for fear.
Pleasuring yourself while
No,
reading.
we're not talking about romantasy here.
Oh God, that is a word, isn't it? Romantasy. I know.
So many
Hilarious.
fantasy books now, I have
Oh,
to
they're
make
horned
sure
up,
that
man.
they're not.
Those,
Because I had
those
that
fourth wing
experience.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah. No, just the one. I was like, I can't.
Yeah, I saw this video. It was a guy reading it to his girlfriend, but doing like different voices.
Yeah, that would be funny.
It's really funny to read, very serious
Like,
romance.
why does it have to? I don't know. I fine. Everybody loves it. Just read, people. It's fine. Read what you want. But I'm going to read this, and I'm going to talk about what I read, which is Incidents Around the House by Josh Mallerman.
Scariest book I read all year.
It's the scariest book I read all year.
Oh, me too. Somebody just said that.
So this book is about an 8-year-old girl named Bella. She's narrating it, and she's basically talking about her everyday life with Mommy, Dado, and Grandma Ruth. And we are quickly introduced to Other Mommy, who wants to go inside Bella's heart. So it's a question she asks Bella often. And as Other Mommy starts to become stronger and more impatient and known to others, Bella starts to get tired of saying no. And because the story's told from Bella's perspective, it's also very quick-paced read.
Yeah.
It's very
It
like
moves.
skips around.
Because Josh Mallerman does his best to make it seem like it's an 8-year-old narrating.
She's not sophisticated to give an in-depth description about everything that's happening, but from her kind of telling about everyday life, we get small details about what Other Mommy looks like, but really it's left to your imagination of what Other Mommy looks like, especially to an 8-year-old that's like large, imposing, shadow-like, witchy creature woman.
Other Mommy is also scary. That's just a scary thing to hear.
And also her saying, I want to go inside your heart. Like, that seems so lovely, but it's actually not.
Does it?
I mean, if your parents said it to you,
it's the go inside part that I'm tripping up on here.
But so you basically create the worst thing that your imagination can make up about what Other Mommy looks like. And Bella is like kind of neglected by this family of hers.
A little bit. Mom is.
It's mom and dad, so I'm not going to just blame it on mom.
It's not the best.
But she has this so she's somewhat neglected by her parents, and like other stranger danger experiences, Other Mommy definitely takes advantage of this.
Yes.
And we can see some of the family dynamics falling apart through Bella's view and how superficially her parents treat her, especially when she starts to talk about Other Mommy or like not talk about Other Mommy. They really don't know about her until it's much too late. I think Josh Mallerman's choice of using Bella as a narrative device helps with any plot holes, and you can eliminate issues that the characters don't really have much depth or
Bella's
development, and
Bella's
that's fine.
She's earnest and she's trustworthy, but she's 8, so she's as reliable as any 8-year-old can be.
And this is a really scary entity experience. And it works because of Bella's telling of it and how she really does start to become more tired of denying Other Mommy. Like, although the parents start to kind of get glimpses of her and they start to do things to try to protect her and move her around, Other Mommy never really leaves Bella. And it becomes so consuming to her that you can see her little like resolve fading.
She wears her down. And it's really a book about, because these two parents, they're not evil.
No,
they're just
selfish.
It's about how easy it is to still do like, a quote unquote good job and do all the things you're supposed to, but how easy it is to just become complacent and take your eye off of the important things. And it's really because the parents, it's not like they neglect Bella's basic needs. It's just that they're not there. They're not
Bella's
present.
smart. She's precocious.
And because-
she's independent.
Because
so
they're not present and they're not
Yeah.
there, that allows the space for other mommy to worm her
They
way
sort
in.
of get wrapped up in their own needs.
It's really a book about what happens, what can sneak into your life with when you take your eye off of things.
Yeah, I think it's a really great kind of new lens on stranger danger.
It's amazing.
Like
Yeah.
what happens
And
when
how
you
quickly,
kind of neglect your kid
yeah,
and
for what?
something comes along to fill that void.
Is at the end of it, when the parents, are doing the things they should be doing, you realize like all of the things that were driving these people apart or occupying the adults were so stupid and unimportant and small. The whole time her daughter's fighting for her soul.
And they do realize it, but
They do.
again,
It's tragic.
It's too
It's
late
it's
because
a-
other mommy has taken
The
hold.
other thing is this
of Bella.
this book fucking ends on a real.
It
wow.
does. It doesn't end happily.
So good.
And it makes sense though, because as soon as other mommy made her first appearance in Bella's closet, I think that's it. I don't think it goes away because parents
I've
start
read,
to be more invested in their kids' lives.
Oh
Like,
no, it's too late. Yeah, I've read I think like 4 or 5 Josh Malermans. This was my favorite for sure.
And also, I think using Bella as the narrator, we don't have to know what other mommy is.
Oh,
where
there's
she
not a lot of,
come
like-
from, what's the
There's no lore dump.
No,
There's no like
it's great.
in 1620 a witch was no. There's none of that shit. It's just there, and it's terrifying.
It is. When I was reading it, because Richard had read it first and then basically handed it to me to read, and I kept being like, "This book is so scary. Like, it's legitimately scary." So,
It's the scariest book I read all year for sure.
incidents around the house.
Hurrah! Is this my last one?
Thankfully, yes. I mean,
My last one it's a late one. I watched it only quite recently, and
it's a night one.
I just can't stop thinking about
It's
it.
a late night.
It's
It's a devil. It's a devil of a one.
it's not actually that
It's
one.
not.
No.
I'm so shocked
I know,
because
I know.
really
I know. Trust. Listen, this year, folks.
that doesn't make sense to
this
me.
year-
I thought you loved that movie.
I did.
Okay,
This year was
just get to it.
it's Mads.
Oh.
French film Mads from director David Moreau. Now, this movie really floored me. It came out of nowhere. It's all shot in one take. It's a 90-minute movie of one uninterrupted take. And I didn't do any research. I went into this movie kind of blind. So I was really, really watching for moments where there were cuts. And I couldn't find any. And then I read an interview with the director. There were none. He shot this film 5 times, once a day, from morning to night. And the movie that was released was the 5th take. He's like, that's the one that was the best. It was the 5th take. It was took a week to do. Well, to film. I mean,
Wait, he shot the whole movie every day?
90 minutes. The whole movie is an uninterrupted take.
Wow.
Yep. It is a spectacular achievement. Now, the movie follows 3 people, and it's kind of broken up into 3 parts. The people intersect with each other, and then you follow the second person for the third part, and she intersects with another character, and then you follow them for the last part of the movie. What happens is the beginning of the movie, Christian is this young kid who's taking drugs at his dealer's place, and then he's, goes home. On his way home, this woman jumps into his car, and she's like, her tongue has been cut out. She's all fucked up and crazy and freaking out. He can't communicate with her, so he's like driving away. He's freaking out, and then she takes like something out of his glove compartment, like a pair of scissors or something, and stabs herself in the neck and bleeds out all over him. So he gets
Typical.
he gets the blood on him. That's the important part.
Okay.
So she has like a tape recorder on her, and he plays a little bit of it, and it's like weird medical stuff. So that's how you start to learn a little bit about what's happening in this movie. This woman was like captured and experimented on. So people come to his house and are looking for him. Anyway, the movie follows him. And like I said, it's all in real time. So this is all taking place like as it happens. And he starts to become like kind of weird. And he goes to this party and he's freaking out. And then he gets his girlfriend takes a bunch of his drugs that has the blood on it. So essentially what's happening is he's turning into a zombie in front of you, which is amazing. It's a transformation from human to monster. And the whole time it's happening, they're like, what's happening to me? You know? So especially with the second part with his girlfriend, and you follow her, it's very tragic. You get this sense like she starts to lose control of herself, and she's also, has these moments. It's very much treated like someone freaking out on drugs, basically.
Yeah.
Because they have these moments where like, oh fuck, what am I doing? What's happening?
Right.
And then they rage out again. The fact that it's all done in one shot like that, it's a technical marvel. It's an achievement. The movie doesn't have the same pacing throughout. There were one or two moments where it flagged a little bit, but overall, it's just amazing. It is pulse pounding. You're like holding your breath through the whole movie. But the best part of it for me was really watching someone go from human to zombie over like the course of 25 minutes or so was so interesting. And the acting choices humanized it in a way that was so like terrible to watch. It's also pretty nuts. Like there are special forces and military and like action sequences and all these crazy things happen, but it's all like, very in your face and very immediate. I loved it. Mads, check it out. It's on Shudder. It's a quick watch. It's a quick paced movie. I can't get over. The director did say it was a real nightmare to shoot. I can't get over like how. Why would you do that to yourself? But it really works. It's so cool to watch.
Awesome.
Mads.
I wonder if like one of the side actors was like, my best cut was the third
one. Yeah, exactly. Right. I know.
How frustrating for actors though.
It must have been a real bear to get through because it's a low budget movie. So it's not like anybody made a lot of money to do all this hard stuff. Yeah.
So my last is another book. It's a collection of short stories by my favorite author, Stephen King. You Like It Darker.
Yes,
and
I do. I do like it.
Stephen King's been writing for 50 years. His first book came out in 1974.
I haven't even been breathing for that long.
And so some other things are turning 50.
I was born dead.
And his newest collection of short stories, You Like It Darker, I think is thoroughly reflective of his dedication to craft. And there are 12 stories in total. They range from supernatural to magic to ghosts to heartache to grief.
Or to just straight up human monster.
Yeah. Some of my favorites were Rattlesnakes, Danny Coughlin's Bad Dream, which asks the question, if you had a dream so real that a crime was committed, what would you do about it?
Oh, man, that's a tough one.
And The Fifth Step, which is as tight as a Hemingway short story.
Oh, it's so good.
It created a sickening, unexpected ending for the man on the bench and the reader.
And it's only a few pages long. It's so short and so good. But my
ultimate favorite and perfect ending to this 500+ page collection is The Answer Man. And this might be one of my favorite Stephen King short stories of all time.
Same.
It's about dreams coming true and love until the knife is twisted in a way only Stephen King knows how to do it. And finding out how Stephen King came to include this story in this collection is really endearing, as the ending of The Answer Man is tear-jerking, and you need tissues.
It's a fucking devastating read.
It's a devastating read, but like so beautiful and so, I don't know, important.
It was the saddest and most affirming thing he's written since 11/22/63.
Correct.
100%.
The way that I felt at the end of that was similar to how I felt at the end of reading The Answer Man.
But here's the thing though, like it's one of his stories that I think you need to read it after you've lived a bit of life. It's
well, yeah.
I
Well, I'll
wouldn't have
tell you how he
appreciated
wrote
this
it,
when
why
I
it came
was
to be
younger.
included, is because he started writing this story 30 years ago,
Makes sense.
his nephew happened upon the copy of it just laying around in his uncle's things, and he was like, you should really do something with this. So now 30 years later, as an older man, Stephen King was like, okay, now I can write a different back half to the story. And it's amazing. It's brilliant and beautiful and hard, and
it definitely reads like mature Stephen King. It's not the same as his younger works.
No, but this collection very much exists in the Kingiverse. You can see there's a yellow card man waiting around the corner. There's a strange legend hiding asleep in Derry. There's folks that just know something's a little off kilter.
Rattlesnakes is a quasi sequel to Cujo.
Yeah,
and it also has references to the Doohickey.
Yeah, so you know that this is very much part of Stephen King's zeitgeist.
Absolutely,
and it really fits well. And I really have to say that one of the reasons I love this collection so much is a melancholy reason, is because I know that Stephen King's getting older, and he's not going to be writing for the next 50 years. So it's sort of maybe like wrapping up his life in a way. And I'm going to pick up everything he writes for, I know there's a new Holly book coming out in June of this year.
While you're doing all that sad crap, I'm going to bury him in a pet cemetery after he dies, and then I'm going to chain him to a typewriter and make sure this shit keeps coming.
But I will say that the Rattlesnakes is probably the scariest of my favorites in this collection. There's some real fucked up, scary shit that happens in that short story. It's definitely worth a read. Not every single short story is like on the top of the list for me here, but I didn't hate any of the shorts.
No. There's only good and amazing.
Yes. So that's it. That's our best of 2024, everyone.
What an incredible year. In any normal year, Longlegs would have been my number one favorite without any competition. But this is a year that included The Substance, Red Rooms, Strange Darling. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And the movies that you and I enjoyed together the most were challenging.
They were.
They were not easy watches.
I have definitely gone out of my comfort zone for many of these horror films.
But these were the best and most impactful movies, the ones that you
Stuck
can't
with
stop.
me for sure.
I think that's the thing with as much content as is being released these days. It's the ones that you're thinking about 3-4 weeks later that you really do, I don't know, that have a lasting impact. It's harder and harder to rise above the churn.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our best of. We hope you have your own best of. We hope
year,
that this
everybody.
podcast is included on your best of 2024 list. So guess we're looking forward to another 2025 year filled with horror.
Oh, it sounds awesome to me.
Of the fictional type.
Of course. Bye, everybody. Terror in Tandem is written, produced, and recorded by Laura and Richard Mathiasen, and edited and mixed by Richard Mathiasen. Our theme was written and performed by Carrie Denver, and all other music was written and performed by David Suspanic. All opinions expressed on this podcast are our own and should be taken as such. Thanks for listening, and please remember to give us a like, a review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. We're standing right behind you.